There is a silent mistake destroying lives. A mistake so common that almost everyone commits it. Yet very few people realize its danger. It doesn't look like a crime. It doesn't look like rebellion. And it certainly doesn't feel like a sin. But in reality, it slowly separates people from blessings they were meant to receive. That mistake is impatience. Yes, impatience. The moment when life becomes difficult, and instead of trusting the process, people start questioning everything. They question their path. They question their future. Sometimes, they even question God. And this is where many people fall without realizing it. Because impatience is not just about waiting. It is about what happens inside your heart while you wait. Some people lose hope. Some people become angry. Some people give up at the exact moment when their breakthrough was just about to happen. Imagine standing one step away from a miracle, but walking away because you couldn't wait one more moment. This is happening to thousands of people right now. People who were meant to succeed. People who were meant to rise. People who were meant to receive something incredible. But impatience stole it from them. And the scary truth is, impatience doesn't destroy loudly. It destroys quietly. It whispers things like, "This is taking too long. Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe God forgot about you. Maybe nothing will ever change." And slowly, that whisper becomes a belief, a dangerous belief, because the moment someone stops believing, they stop moving forward. And once a person stops moving forward, life begins to collapse around them. But what many people don't understand is this. Delay is not rejection. Waiting is not abandonment. And silence does not mean God is ignoring you. Sometimes, the delay is protection. Sometimes, the delay is preparation. And sometimes, the delay is the only thing standing between you and a disaster you cannot see yet. But impatience blinds people to this truth. And that's why today, we need to talk about something most people ignore, the hidden danger of impatience. Because if you understand this message, it could change the way you see every struggle in your life, and it might save you from making the biggest mistake people regret for the rest of their lives. So listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is something most people learn too late. Part 1. The hidden test nobody talks about. Most people think the biggest tests in life are pain, loss, or failure, but that's not actually true. The real test is waiting. Waiting when nothing makes sense. Waiting when doors stay closed. Waiting when everyone else seems to be moving ahead while you feel stuck. This is where impatience begins to grow. At first, it's small, a little frustration, a little doubt. But if it's not controlled, it becomes something much more dangerous. It becomes resentment. And resentment slowly changes the heart. A person who once had faith begins to lose it. A person who once had hope begins to question everything. And this is exactly where many destinies are destroyed. Because what people don't see is this. Some of the greatest blessings in life require time. Real growth takes time. Real success takes time. Real transformation takes time. But modern life has trained people to expect everything instantly. Instant success, instant answers, instant results. And when life doesn't move that fast, people panic. They think something is wrong. But what if nothing is wrong? What if the waiting period is actually part of the plan? Think about this. A seed placed in the ground does not grow overnight. It stays buried in darkness first. Imagine if that seed became impatient. Imagine if it said, "I've been in the ground for too long. This isn't working." It would never become a tree. And many people are doing the exact same thing in their lives. They quit too early. They walk away too early. They give up right before the moment everything was about to change. And years later, they look back and realize something painful. They weren't losing. They were being prepared. But impatience made them blind to it. And this is why patience is not weakness. Patience is strength. It is the ability to trust even when you don't understand. And very few people have that power today, which is exactly why so many people miss the blessings meant for them. Part 2. The dangerous voice that creates impatience. There is something else most people never realize. Impatience doesn't just appear suddenly, it is created by a voice. Not always a loud voice, but a subtle one, a voice that slowly plants doubt in your mind. It starts saying things like, "Why is this taking so long? Maybe this will never happen. Maybe you should just quit." And the more you listen to that voice, the stronger it becomes, until one day, you start believing it. This is where the real danger begins. Because once a person starts believing those thoughts, they start making decisions based on fear instead of faith. They rush into wrong choices. They leave the right path. They abandon opportunities that only needed a little more time. And later, they regret it deeply. But by then, the moment has already passed. What's even more dangerous is that impatience can disguise itself as logic. People convince themselves, "I'm just being realistic. I'm just tired of waiting. I'm just moving on." But sometimes, moving on is not wisdom. Sometimes, it's surrender. And many people surrender right before their story changes. This is why impatience has destroyed more dreams than failure ever has. Failure can teach you. Failure can make you stronger. But impatience makes you walk away from the lesson entirely. And that is one of the greatest tragedies a person can experience. Because some opportunities in life only come once. And if impatience makes you leave that moment, you may spend years wondering what could have happened if you had just waited a little longer. But here is the truth most people don't want to hear. The people who receive the greatest blessings in life are usually the ones who waited the longest. They faced delays. They faced silence. They faced moments where it felt like nothing was happening, but they didn't give up. And eventually, everything changed, because patience always reveals what impatience can never see. Part 3. Why impatience destroys blessings before they arrive. There is something deeply tragic that happens when impatience takes control of a person's life. Most people think impatience only causes frustration, but in reality, it can destroy blessings that were already on their way. Yes, this is something many people never realize until it is too late. Because not every opportunity arrives instantly. Some blessings travel slowly. They move through time, through circumstances, through preparation. And while they are on their way, life may look silent. Nothing seems to change. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even years pass. And during this waiting period, people start to feel tired. They start thinking, maybe this will never happen. Maybe this was never meant for me. Maybe I should stop believing. But what they don't see is this. Behind the scenes, things may already be shifting. Doors may already be opening. Paths may already be aligning. People may already be moving into your life who will change everything. But impatience interrupts the process. It's like someone leaving the theater 5 minutes before the ending of a movie. They never see the resolution. They never see how everything was about to make sense. And later, they live with confusion and regret. This happens in relationships. This happens in careers. This happens in spiritual journeys. Many people walk away from the very thing that was meant to transform their life, not because it was impossible, but because it was taking longer than they expected. And this is one of the most dangerous illusions impatience creates. It makes you believe that time equals failure, but that is not true. Some of the most powerful transformations in life happen quietly, slowly, almost invisibly, until one day, everything suddenly makes sense. But if a person quits too early, they never reach that moment. And that is why patience is not just about waiting. It is about trusting what you cannot yet see. Because sometimes, the blessing is closer than you think, closer than you can imagine. But impatience pushes people to walk away just before the miracle happens. And that is a mistake many people spend the rest of their lives regretting. Part 4. The moment most people fail. There is a specific moment in life where most people lose the battle against impatience. It is not at the beginning of the journey. At the beginning, people are motivated. They are excited. They are hopeful. They believe everything will work out. But the real test comes later. It comes when the excitement fades and the struggle begins. When progress slows down, when results don't appear as quickly as expected, when it feels like nothing is happening. This is the moment when many people start to break internally. Because waiting is not easy when life feels uncertain. Your mind starts creating fears. Your thoughts start becoming louder. And suddenly, doubt begins to take over. You start comparing your life with others. You see people succeeding faster. You see people achieving things you wanted. And that comparison becomes fuel for impatience. You begin asking painful questions. Why is it happening for them, but not for me? This question has destroyed the peace of countless people, because comparison creates pressure, and pressure creates frustration, and frustration feeds impatience. But what most people forget is something very important. Everyone's timeline is different. Some people rise early, some people rise later, but rising late does not mean losing. In fact, many of the strongest people succeed later in life because they were being built differently, prepared differently, strengthened in ways others were not. But impatience makes people misunderstand their journey. It makes them think they are behind, when in reality, they are simply on a different path. And this misunderstanding leads to one dangerous decision. They quit. They stop trying. They abandon the process that was shaping them into someone stronger. And years later, they realize something painful. They were closer than they thought. Much closer. But they walked away during the most important stage of their journey. The stage where patience mattered the most. Part 5. How impatience slowly changes your mind. Impatience doesn't just affect your decisions. It slowly begins to change the way you think. At first, it only appears during difficult moments. But over time, it becomes a habit, a mindset, and once impatience becomes part of your mindset, it starts affecting every area of your life. You begin expecting everything to happen quickly, and when it doesn't, frustration grows. You lose focus faster. You lose motivation faster. You give up on goals faster, and slowly, your confidence starts to weaken. This is the hidden danger most people never notice. Impatience trains the brain to believe that effort is useless if results are not immediate. And that belief is extremely dangerous, because the greatest achievements in life require persistence. Think about the people who changed the world. Think about the individuals who built something meaningful. Their journey was not fast. Their journey was filled with delays, rejections, failures, moments where nothing seemed to be working, but they continued. They kept moving forward even when progress was invisible. And that is the difference between people who eventually succeed and those who give up too soon. One group allows impatience to control them. The other group learns to master it. And mastering impatience is not easy, because the mind naturally wants comfort. It wants quick results. It wants certainty. But real growth happens in uncertainty. Real strength develops in waiting. And real transformation happens when a person refuses to quit, even when things are slow. This is why impatience can quietly sabotage a person's destiny, not by stopping them immediately, but by slowly convincing them to stop trying. And once a person stops trying, opportunities begin to disappear, potential begins to fade, dreams begin to die, all because impatience convinced them that the journey was taking too long. But the truth is, the journey was never too long. They just stopped too early. Part 6. The trap that makes people ruin their own future. There is a moment in life where impatience becomes extremely dangerous. Not because you are tired, not because things are difficult, but because impatience begins to push you toward the wrong decisions. And this is where many people unknowingly damage their own future. When someone becomes impatient, they start rushing. They rush relationships. They rush opportunities. They rush choices that were meant to be made with wisdom. And when people rush, they stop thinking clearly. They stop seeing the full picture. Instead of asking, "Is this right for me?" they start asking, "How fast can I escape this waiting?" And that mindset changes everything. Because now, Decisions are no longer guided by purpose. They are guided by discomfort, and decisions made from discomfort often lead to regret. Many people leave the right path because it felt too slow. Many people abandon their growth because it felt too painful. Many people trade long-term success for short-term relief. But what they don't realize is this: short-term relief can create long-term consequences. Sometimes impatience causes someone to accept less than they deserve. Sometimes impatience pushes someone into situations they were supposed to avoid. Sometimes impatience makes people settle for things that were never meant for them. And years later, they look back and ask themselves a painful question: what would my life look like if I had just waited a little longer? That question has haunted many people because deep down, they know the truth. They didn't fail. They didn't lose. They simply rushed a moment that required patience. And rushing a destiny can delay it even more. Life has a strange way of teaching people the lessons they tried to escape. If someone refuses to learn patience early, life often teaches it later, but in a harder way. This is why impatience is not just a weakness, it is a trap. A trap that quietly convinces people to destroy what was still being built. And the saddest part is, most people realize this only after the damage is done. Part 7. The silent strength that very few people have. There is a quality that separates those who rise in life from those who remain stuck. It's not talent, it's not luck, and it's not even intelligence. It is patience with purpose. This type of patience is rare because most people misunderstand what patience actually means. Patience does not mean doing nothing. Patience does not mean being weak. Patience means continuing to move forward, even when results are slow. It means trusting the process, even when your emotions are telling you to quit. And this kind of strength is extremely powerful, because while impatient people burn out quickly, patient people grow stronger over time. Think about a mountain. A mountain is not built in one day. It takes thousands of years of pressure, movement, and transformation. But once it is formed, it becomes unshakable. And the same thing happens with people who learn patience. Life shapes them differently. Waiting teaches them discipline. Struggle teaches them resilience. Silence teaches them wisdom. While others are panicking, they are observing. While others are quitting, they are learning. While others are rushing into mistakes, they are preparing for the right moment. And this is why patient people often surprise everyone. For a long time, it may look like nothing is happening in their life. People underestimate them. People doubt them. People think they are falling behind. But then one day, everything changes, because what was being built slowly becomes something powerful. And suddenly the same people who doubted them start asking, "How did you do it?" But what they don't understand is this: it wasn't sudden. It was years of patience that nobody noticed. Years of growth that happened quietly. Years of believing when it would have been easier to give up. And that is why patience is one of the most underrated strengths in the world. Most people want results fast, but the people who truly succeed are the ones who are strong enough to wait. Part 8. When waiting feels like nothing is happening. One of the hardest experiences in life is the feeling that nothing is changing. You keep trying, you keep hoping, you keep moving forward, but the results still seem far away. And this is the exact moment when impatience becomes the loudest. Your mind begins to question everything. Is this even worth it? Am I wasting my time? Maybe I should stop. These thoughts can feel very real, very convincing. Because when progress is invisible, doubt becomes powerful. But what most people don't realize is something extremely important. Just because you cannot see progress does not mean progress isn't happening. Some of the biggest changes in life happen beneath the surface, just like roots growing under the ground. Before a tree becomes visible above the surface, its roots grow deep below, strengthening, expanding, preparing. And if those roots were not strong, the tree would collapse later. The same is true for people. There are seasons in life where growth is happening internally. Your mindset is changing. Your strength is increasing. Your understanding is evolving. even if the outside world hasn't noticed yet. But impatience makes people abandon these seasons. They leave before their roots become strong. They walk away before their breakthrough appears. And because of that, they never see the full result of what they started. This is why many people think success is about speed. But the truth is, success is often about endurance. It is about who can continue when things are slow, who can believe when things are uncertain, who can remain steady when life becomes quiet. Because in those quiet moments, your future is often being prepared in ways you cannot yet understand. And if you learn to survive those moments, you become someone very rare. Someone who cannot be easily shaken. Someone who does not give up when life becomes difficult. And that kind of person is the kind of person who eventually wins. Part 9. The moment people almost win, but walk away. There is a heartbreaking pattern that happens in many people's lives. They work hard for something. They struggle. They sacrifice. They push through days when they feel tired, confused, and uncertain. And slowly, they start getting closer to their breakthrough. But there is a moment, a very critical moment, where everything becomes extremely difficult. This is the stage where progress feels invisible, where the reward still hasn't appeared, where the silence feels heavier than ever. And this is exactly where impatience attacks the strongest. Because the closer someone gets to change, the more pressure they begin to feel. Their mind starts whispering dangerous thoughts again. Maybe this will never work. Maybe you should just stop now. You've already tried enough. And sadly, this is the moment many people give up. Not at the beginning, not when the journey first started, but right before everything was about to shift. This is something that happens far more often than people realize. Many success stories in the world almost didn't happen. Many breakthroughs almost never occurred, because the person behind them almost walked away. Imagine climbing a mountain for hours, maybe even days. You are exhausted. Your body hurts. Your energy is nearly gone. You start thinking about turning back. And then, without realizing it, you are only a few steps away from the top. But because you cannot see the peak yet, you assume it's still too far. So you stop. You turn around, you walk back down. Only later do you realize the painful truth. You were closer than you ever imagined. And impatience stole the victory that was already within reach. This is why perseverance is so powerful. Because sometimes success is not about being the smartest person. It's about being the person who simply refuses to stop. The one who continues even when doubt is loud. The one who stays when others leave. The one who waits when others rush away. And more often than not, that person is the one who finally sees the miracle happen. Part 10. Why life delays certain blessings. There is something about life that many people struggle to understand. Not everything arrives when we want it to. Some opportunities take longer. Some answers take longer. Some transformations take longer. And this can feel frustrating, even painful. But what if the delay actually has a purpose? What if some blessings need time because you are not the same person yet who can handle them? This is something many people overlook. If success arrives too early, it can destroy someone. If power arrives too early, it can corrupt someone. If responsibility arrives too early, it can overwhelm someone. So sometimes life delays things not to punish you, but to prepare you, to strengthen your mindset, to build your discipline, to teach you lessons you will need later. Imagine giving someone everything they want instantly, without struggle, without patience, without growth. Most of the time, they would lose it just as quickly as they received it, because they were never prepared to carry it. And this is why waiting seasons exist. They shape you, they transform you, they remove weaknesses you didn't even realize you had. But impatience makes people misunderstand these seasons. They think the delay means failure. They think the silence means rejection. But sometimes, the silence is simply preparation happening in the background. Think about the strongest structures in the world. Before they are built tall, their foundations are built deep. And foundations take time. But once they are finished, the structure can stand for years, even decades. This is exactly what patience does in a person's life. It builds a foundation strong enough to support the future they are about to receive. But people who refuse to wait often collapse when success finally arrives because they rushed a process that was meant to strengthen them. And this is why delays are not always obstacles. Sometimes they are protection. Protection from mistakes, protection from failure, protection from receiving something too early. But only people who understand patience are able to see this truth. Everyone else just sees frustration. Part 11, the regret that comes too late. One of the most painful feelings a person can experience in life is regret. Not regret from trying and failing, but regret from giving up too soon. There are people walking around today carrying a silent question inside their hearts. A question that follows them for years. A question they cannot escape. What would have happened if I didn't quit? This question is heavy because deep down, they remember the moment they walked away. They remember the moment impatience convinced them it wasn't worth continuing. At that time, it felt like the right decision. It felt logical. It felt necessary. But time has a strange way of revealing the truth. Years later, they see others succeed in the same path they once left. They see opportunities they once had become something great. And slowly, realization begins to grow. Maybe the journey was not impossible. Maybe the waiting was not wasted. Maybe the struggle was actually leading somewhere important. But by then, the moment is gone. This is why impatience can be so dangerous, because its consequences are often invisible at first. You don't immediately see the damage. You only see relief. Relief from waiting, relief from pressure, relief from uncertainty. But later, that relief turns into something else. A quiet regret that appears when you least expect it. When you see what could have been, when you realize how close you were, when you understand that a little more patience might have changed everything. And this is why the strongest people are not the ones who avoid difficulty. They are the ones who endure it long enough to reach the other side. Because on the other side of patience, there is often something far greater than you imagined. But only those who refuse to quit ever get to see it. Part 12, the truth most people realize too late. There comes a moment in life when everything finally makes sense. But for many people, that realization arrives years later. Not during the struggle, not during the waiting, but after the opportunity is already passed. This is one of the harshest truths about impatience. It hides the full picture from you while you are living through it. When you're inside the waiting season, it feels uncomfortable. It feels slow. It feels confusing. You cannot see the purpose behind what is happening. All you see is delay. All you feel is pressure. All you hear is the voice telling you to hurry, to escape, to give up. But life is not always meant to be rushed. Some of the most meaningful things in life require time to unfold. Think about wisdom. Think about maturity. Think about becoming a stronger person. None of these things happen instantly. They are built slowly, moment by moment, challenge by challenge. But impatience tricks people into believing that slow progress means failure. And this is where many people make the biggest mistake of their lives. They abandon a journey that was actually shaping them into someone greater, someone wiser, someone stronger, someone ready for the future they were meant to step into. But because they couldn't see that future yet, they walked away. And later, when life moves forward and they look back, they begin to understand something they couldn't see before. The waiting wasn't empty. The struggle wasn't pointless. The delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for a version of life that required a stronger version of them. And this realization can be both powerful and painful. Powerful because it teaches wisdom. Painful because it reveals what impatience may have taken away. This is why the greatest lesson many successful people learn is this. Patience is not just about time. It is about trust. Trust that even when life feels slow, something meaningful may still be unfolding. Trust that your effort is not wasted. Trust that your journey still has a destination. Because the truth is, many of the most incredible moments in life arrive quietly, not when you rush, but when you endure long enough to meet them. And only those who stay patient long enough ever get to experience that moment, a message you need to hear today. So if you are listening to this right now, and you feel like life is moving too slowly, If you feel like nothing is changing, if you feel tired of waiting, then this message might be exactly what you needed to hear today. Because many people give up during the chapter where everything is still being written. They assume the story is over, when in reality, it has not even reached its most important moment yet. You might be closer than you think, closer to a breakthrough, closer to understanding, closer to a change that could transform your life. But impatience is dangerous because it makes you leave before that moment arrives. And once you leave, you may never know what was about to happen next. So before you decide to quit, before you decide that the journey is taking too long, take a moment to ask yourself something important. What if this waiting period is actually shaping you? What if this delay is protecting you? What if this silence is preparing something you cannot see yet? Life does not always reveal its plans immediately. Sometimes it tests whether you have the strength to continue without answers. And those who pass that test often discover something extraordinary waiting for them on the other side. The truth is, the sin of impatience is not just that it makes you uncomfortable. The real danger is that it can make you walk away from a future that was still being built for you, a future that needed a little more time, a little more growth, a little more faith. So if you are in a difficult season right now, do not rush your story, do not abandon your journey, and most importantly, do not let impatience steal something that was meant to arrive in your life. Because sometimes, the difference between regret and success is simply the decision to wait a little longer. And one day, you may look back at this moment and realize something powerful, that the time you thought you were losing was actually the time that was preparing you to win.